second generation Audi R8 Spyder is a gentleman's supercar. With a 5.2-litre naturally aspirated V10 pushing 540 horsepower to all four wheels, you have a car that builds speed in a very exciting yet sophisticated way. Somewhere between unvarying Audi usability and electrifying Lamborghini exhilaration, you find the R8, the best of both worlds. Or is it?
Hey guys, welcome back to the Shift RSA. This is another one of those reviews where I've got limited time with the car, so I'm going to try and get as much out of it as possible. You probably noticed that the intro was a voiceover. That's a little trick that I use if I don't have too much time at my disposal. But as you saw in the thumbnail, this is the Audi R8 and this is a Spyder. It's a non-plus version, so it's standard V10 business as usual, 5.2 litre goodness. And we're basically trotting around Sandton, which is a very affluent neighborhood here in Johannesburg. So obviously there's rules to the road, there's holes in the road, there's other people using the road, so I'm not going to be too rambunctious, but I do think it's fitting that I do this. Yeah, like I said, normal 5.2 litre V10 naturally aspirated goodness. You really can't ask for better in a car like this. So I did drive it a little bit before I hit the record button, and that was obviously just to feel it out and see what she does. And as you can expect from a naturally aspirated V10, you have a very direct response. You have no lag. No lag whatsoever, immediate power. If you are used to turbocharged power units, you might be anticipating that boost to kick in, that hit, which you don't get with this. Instead, you just stretch out the gear and you pretty much just let it scream. And as soon as I find a piece of road to do that, I will. But for now, we're just driving, we're just feeling it out. This is the first time we're driving a supercar-ish car on the channel, so that's obviously a very special moment for myself as well. Okay, so basically let's summarize the Audi R8 quickly just as a personality, because as you know, those are the kinds of things that matter for me in a car, and that is what is the personality of the car, what is the character. And the R8 is a very special case because it does supercar things, but it also doesn't. And the things that it does is good handling, superb, sharp, very light. And then the other thing that it does as well, obviously, is acceleration. I mean, you can expect as much from the Quattro all-wheel drive, a nice double clutch transmission that lets you get off the line. I think pretty enthusiastically, not too consistently from the research that I've done. It does have a tendency to bog down, but so the things that this car does that makes it more unlike a supercar is it's not distasteful. And it's not that I'm saying other supercars are distasteful, but the public palate isn't always, you know, adjusted for supercars. People tend to look at it and think it's quite obnoxious and unnecessary and offensive, whereas this car flies under the radar just enough to not be those things. And it's kind of nice. I mean, I've been driving now for, let's call it 10-20 minutes in the car, and I'm not getting the kinds of looks I was expecting. In fact, I actually got more looks when I was driving the Porsche 911 Carrera S. So, and I mean, that's saying something. A Porsche is a very recognizable car. This one just kind of has the supercar silhouette, but it's painted in white, and it's, I don't know, I mean, the exhaust, obviously, I can turn on and off. There it's off, and immediately it's super quiet, and I can speak super softly. And then if I do feel like being a bit offensive, I just put it on again. So it's kind of a split personality in that way. It kind of will take your head off, but it also is very subtle, and it's very tamed and domesticated in a way. So let's talk about quickly why it's special that the R8 is here and why we should appreciate it while it's still here. So the R8 kind of fits in a very, even if supercars weren't niche enough before, it fits into an even more niche market with the Porsche 911 as being a usable, dailyable sports car. And that is a car that can do bumps, it can do highways, it can do cruising, it can do to work and back, it can do stop-start traffic and all of those things with minimal fuss, and it is super usable. And I hope I don't get into trouble for saying it, but if you've ever driven an Audi TTS or an Audi TT, then this is going to be a very familiar feeling to you, because the cockpit is the same, the digital dash, the steering wheel, all those goodies. And other than being a tad small, but like I've mentioned before, I'm a bit of an obnoxiously long lizard. Other than that, it's a pretty standard car to drive. It goes over speed bumps. You don't really need the nosy lifty thing that you get in McLarens, Ferraris and Lambos alike. It does all of those things, making it a pretty livable car. So it kind of fits in that market very nicely, and for that reason I'm quite surprised that no one is upset about the fact that they won't be doing any more R8s. That's not something that we can anticipate in the future. They've done a facelift version of this model, which gets, I mean, some cosmetic upgrades. Obviously it has a bit more power and speed if you go for the plus models. So the age of the naturally aspirated mid-engine supercar from Audi is no more. So in a way you can kind of say that we're saying farewell to the R8, and it's quite a pity because it's my first time driving one, hopefully not the last. But yeah, we can pretty much say goodbye to this car, and it's a pity because it's such a beautiful recipe. It's a car that fit into people's lives so perfectly, ticking so many boxes, and it's just going out of the picture, and I feel like people should be more upset by that. I know I am, not that I would ever afford one, but to some degree it does upset me because it's such a refined, such a balanced, such an exciting, but yet such a subtle recipe, and that for me is special. And it's a pity that it's going away. I've driven the RS3 before, two actually. One was kind of slightly tuned, the other one wasn't. And then I've driven the Audi TTS before, and this is so similar but so different. Okay, so it's time to head back. Obviously you can't keep people's supercars from them too long. So what I'm going to do is I'm just quickly going to give you a rundown of my experience driving it. Unfortunately I can't demonstrate it because I'm in a suburban area, blah blah blah. So acceleration wise, you're going to find most of the power kind of a third of the way into the rev range, but also not really, maybe halfway through. When you plant it there, you get all the go. The ride I thought would be slightly less harsh, but it is actually quite harsh. But if you see the profile of the tires, that'll make sense to you. The braking in here, I mean, is just absolutely ridiculous. You could be going very incriminating speeds, stand on the brakes, and you'll pretty much come to a dead standstill within no time. The handling side to side, it's weird because I haven't driven the coupe, so I can't tell you how the two compare. But as far as Spyders and drop tops go, this car's going to be as stiff and responsive as you need it to be. Obviously in dynamic mode, steering is going to become a bit heavier. In comfort mode, it's going to be lighter. But when it's in dynamic, it's heavy enough that it can convince you that you are more involved than you actually are. One thing I will say now that I've mentioned the handling, and once again, I'll probably hurt some people's feelings, but you know what, deal with it, you're an adult. If you're not an adult, you'll learn to deal with it in time. And that's, many people's cars are faster than they are able to drive. So in other words, many people don't have the driving skill that they think they have, and then they think they need more speed, and when they get more speed, suddenly they don't know how to handle it and they make an accident or they hurt themselves. And obviously my condolences, but I think this is one of those cars where until you found the limits, don't complain about the handling. And that actually goes for any car, if I'm honest. Okay, so who is this car for then? I mean, this car is definitely for the young professional or someone who's made it in life who feels like they deserve something nice. Obviously only 2 seats, that might hamper your decision. If you have other spatial needs, you might go for something like an RS6, which I think is kind of comparable in terms of speed. The other kind of person that might like this car is someone that's shorter, believe it or not, because like I said, I'm quite a long boy, and it's quite uncomfortable for me in here. I did notice I wasn't able to adjust the seats all the way back, and maybe there's something down there propping it, but even if I could, it wouldn't have made much of a difference. That's why I kind of made myself at home. I hunkered down in my seat, and my hair is constantly rubbing the top of the roof here, so yeah, so that's where we're at. If you've got money, if you think you deserve the finer things in life, obviously if you can really afford it, and not just the bank told you can afford it, because they will tell you that and they will lie to you. So if that's you and you don't necessarily want the flash associated with cars like Ferraris and the likes, then this is definitely a good option for you, and you'll be very happy because you'll have the best of both worlds. You'll have a practical, comfortable car, but you will have something that's impressively fast and something that's very likely to last you. It's still an Audi at the end of the day. I know many people are biased towards their brands, and they might tell you, yeah, but Audi this and that. Audi is still a pretty reliable car. I mean, German engineering definitely has its benefits, and all of those benefits are present here. Good ergonomic design inside here, very driver focused, but top-notch quality everywhere you touch. I haven't found a cheap material. Maybe the cover of the speakers, but I don't know if that's something that I can really fault them on. There's obviously other factors at play there. There's carbon fiber absolutely everywhere, and knowing Audi, I'm very sure that that's a specable option. But spec it. You only live once. You've just bought an Audi R8. Treat yourself. Get the carbon bits. Definitely worth it. There's a part of road down here that should give me some space just to stretch its legs, just so I can show you exactly what that mid-range poke is like. So, I mean, that was a little short burst. That was literally, I just shifted down twice. I got her exactly to where she feels good to go, and then that's where all the power is. So if you're used to turbocharged cars with a shorter power band, but where you can sometimes rely on the boost, here you really can't. You want to shift down a few times, get her right within poking range, and obviously then just send it. And then obviously, because you guys asked, and I wasn't really able to oblige you this time with exterior shots or rolling shots or all those fancy things, but I am going to do just a bit of a sound demonstration with the windows down. I hope it translates onto the microphone. Despite what people might tell you, navigating traffic in other people's cars, cars that you're not familiar with, not as easy as it looks. Guys, I hope that's been enough for you. I mean, you know, sometimes with limited resources, you don't always have the most amount of time, but you got to grab every opportunity you can while you can. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.